What's going on, Bulls Nation? Superspan here. Today we're going to be talking about the Bulls' upsetting loss to the Atlanta Hawks last night. However, making the NBA play-in tournament nonetheless. So let's get right into that. So as I mentioned, the Bulls ended up losing to the Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter-less Atlanta Hawks last night. What can I say other than it was an absolutely embarrassing loss. They were without their all-star point guard, and we ended up just getting absolutely embarrassed at home. The Bulls looked unmotivated. They looked as though they assumed this was a preseason game and not their most important game of the season. It was just absolutely embarrassing. But on the positive note, somehow we still managed to clinch a spot in the play-in tournament. That spot most likely being the 10th seed. So there's that at least. The Orlando Magic were beaten by the Cleveland Cavaliers, which oddly enough was the exact way we were able to get into the playoffs last year. So I found that pretty interesting. But there's a bunch of things this team has to get right. I mean, not only for the playing games, if there are more than one game, but for next season. I mean, the three-point shooting, like I mentioned, is awful. Our defense has been really, really good, especially in the second half of the season. But within the last month, I mean, it's sort of wavered a little bit. Alex Caruso is continuing to be a phenomenal defensive presence, but on offense, pretty much an extreme liability. Patrick Beverley is continuing to be a phenomenal addition to this team, especially in terms of defense and veteran leadership, which was, I mean, the defense wasn't extremely needed, but the veteran leadership was, because we all know Pat Bev is the type of guy to get in people's faces and tell them what they're doing wrong when they're doing something wrong. But with all that being said, it's also been an extremely inconsistent season, especially on offense, and just rebounding as of lately. We were an elite defensive rebounding team, and within the last month, we've also just taken a huge dive in that aspect. Something that really frustrates me is just the fact that we cannot guard corner threes, or really, for the most part, it seems like we leave almost any shooter open, especially when, it's an important moment in the game when we need a stop or something like that. We just leave these guys open and then they make a three. And it's like, it's just extremely frustrating the way the Bulls have played this season overall. There's been moments where you think they're world beaters. They're beating teams like Milwaukee, Denver, Brooklyn when they were a full team, when they had Kevin Durant and all them. And we beat Philly not that long ago, and then they ended up destroying us in embarrassing fashion. But this team is extremely inconsistent, and honestly, a huge part of it is our three-point shooting. You're not going to play perfect defense every night, and I fully understand that. And I also get that we have been a good team in terms of defending the three-point line at certain points in the season. Whether or not that is based on luck is up for debate, but the numbers show that we have been a darn good defensive team. But the issue still stands that we need to address the elephant in the room that has been there for a few years now, and that's our three-point shooting. It's like I know a lot of teams have to overpay for 3-point shooting, but I really think that there are some guys out there that maybe you can convince, like, this is a team that you really want to go to. We are like a few pieces away or a couple solid role players away from being where we were at the first half of last season. So hopefully they can do something about that this upcoming offseason. But first things first, we got to focus on the task at hand, and that's obviously this playing game. Now, it looks as though we might play against the Toronto Raptors in that game there, in the first game. And that's a tough game in and of itself. Pascal Siakam has been phenomenal. Fred VanVleet is always great. And, you know, they got OG Anunoby. And it's a scary team to play, especially in a one-game elimination type scenario. So, I mean, we'll see how that goes. I mean, we certainly just have to work on our offensive consistency. It's insane how wishy-washy this team has been all year, and something needs to be done this offseason. Now, I don't think the Bulls need to trade Zach LaVine. I have been a Zach apologist for ever since we got him, basically. I love DeMar DeRozan. However, I feel like that's the most logical scenario, that the Bulls get rid of DeMar DeRozan, try to trade him to somewhere and get a few pieces back. But, you know, like I said before, that's beyond the current task at hand, which is the play-in game. So we'll see where that goes. But anyways, guys, I'm going to end this video here. Sorry I didn't make a video last week. I just sort of had to take a break. There wasn't a whole lot of Bulls news that broke. But I hope you guys will forgive me. But anyways, I will see you guys next time.